Joe Biden called our supporters garbage. Garbage.
It's the throwaway remark that just keeps on giving. For Donald Trump, that is. But he does specialise in trash talk. So Biden's apparent dismissal of Trump's supporters as garbage was always ripe for recycling. Again and again.
Garbage.
This was what Biden said on a campaign call on Tuesday.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
The president later clarified he was talking about a Trump supporter, the shock comedian who made racist jokes at one of Trump's rallies the day before.
There's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
No outrage about that slur.
For more on the growing controversy over the garbage comment heard around the world.
But Fox News has given plenty of airtime to the Biden aftermath. Today, showing a graphic with what the stenographer typed when Biden was speaking on the left, and the inclusion of an apostrophe by the White House press team on the right. The apostrophe supporting what Biden says he meant to say. And it turns out the stenographers aren't happy. In an angry email to the White House press office, they criticised what they called a breach of protocol, saying if there is a difference in interpretation, the press office may choose to withhold the transcript but cannot edit it independently. Enough already, as the Americans would say, though Kamala Harris was also focused on Garbagegate last night too, but she turned the focus back on the original racist slur, inviting none other than the Puerto Rican superstar Jennifer Lopez on stage to do just that.
You can't even spell American without Rican. This is our country too.
You can't even say America without saying Rican, Lopez said.
I am an actor and an entertainer, and I like Hollywood endings. I like when the good guy, or in this case, the good girl, wins.
They were in Las Vegas in the swing state of Nevada, as was Donald Trump, both trying to appeal to those all-important swing voters, where Latinos are a key voting bloc. But Trump wasn't so much focused on wooing voters,
But she's a stupid person, and
as doing down his enemies. This time a volley of vitriol towards Liz Cheney, one of the most prominent Trump critics, who was ousted from the Republican Party and is now supporting Kamala Harris.
she's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
Arriving at a campaign stop in Wisconsin today, Kamala Harris again seized on Trump's words, saying that that kind of rhetoric should count him out of the race.
This must be disqualifying. Anyone who wants to be president of the United States who uses that kind of violent rhetoric is clearly disqualified and unqualified to be president.
Violent rhetoric, insults and garbage. The reality of an election in 21st century America.
Well, a huge number of Americans have already voted. Typically more Democrats turn out early, but this time many Republicans have done as well, after Donald Trump reversed his 2020 advice and encouraged them to vote in advance. More than 65 million people have already cast their ballots, according to New York Times data. That's 32% of all voters. Recent polls of those who say they already voted show Kamala Harris leading Donald Trump nationally by between 19 and 29 points. That's according to analysis by the Washington Post. That's not as wide a margin as Biden in 2020, when Democrats embraced mail voting because of COVID, but more than Hillary Clinton in 2016. And in some of the crucial swing states that will decide this election, early turnout is even higher. 58% in North Carolina, 53% here in Georgia, and 49% in Arizona and Nevada. Polls show Kamala Harris leading among these early voters by as much as 22 to 60 points in Wisconsin and as little as 2 to 6 points in North Carolina. These margins are also narrower than Joe Biden's, but similar to Hillary Clinton's. The only state where a poll puts Donald Trump in the lead is Nevada by 6 points. It means that Kamala Harris is expected to go into the election day with a substantial lead already banked. but so did Hillary Clinton, and we know how that turned out. Well, with me now is Janelle King, who's an election official here in Georgia and the former deputy director of the state Republican Party. Thanks for coming onto these noisy streets.
I know.
It's all very exciting. Let me start, first of all, are you confident that this election will run more smoothly without the challenges that we saw 4 years ago?
I would like to be confident in that. You know, I do have my concerns, considering the fact that 7 of our rules were shot down in the court. That makes me a little concerned. So I'm going to say I'm about 80% certain that things are going to go off without a hitch, but who really knows?
And the accusation is that you tried to change these rules last minute as a way of sowing chaos and possibly making it easier for Donald Trump to claim victory here, even if he's lost this election.
Yeah, I don't know what they expected me to do. I came on the board in July. That was my first board meeting. And so when I look at it, I just feel like I'm doing my job. As rules and
what was wrong with the old rules?
So these are not new rules. These is us creating a uniform process. There are counties and precincts that already count their ballots. We want to make it uniform across the state. So when you consider that, we're not making up anything new. We're simply creating uniformity.
Right, but I think the accusation was that you were trying to introduce a discretionary process for each individual ballot, which would just prolong it all for such a long time.
No, it wouldn't. Actually, 2 things. One, they will only be counting election day.
Yeah.
That means, and on the precinct level. And what we saw from previous elections, we're talking about an average of 300 ballots. Not only that, but when we tested the actual rule, it took them to count 758 ballots.
Right.
It took them 26 minutes.
The reason why people are asking this question, of course, is because Donald Trump still maintains that the last election was stolen. Are you worried that there are still millions of Republicans out there, perhaps you're one of them, who believes that the last election was stolen?
So I'm not one that believes the last election was stolen. I've said that several times, but no one wants to report it.
Right.
I'm someone
Well, you're
who
saying it
believes-
now here.
No,
Okay.
I'm not. No, so in this, yes, I am saying it
right.
here. Thank you. In this particular election, I just want people to know that it's not about 2020. We had issues in 2022. So what President Trump concerns are, those are his concerns.
But he's already challenged the result before we even had it. He's already said they're going to be trying to steal the vote again. That is incredibly dangerous
Well, we
when
saw
such
this
an
in
important part of a
Georgia.
democracy is the peaceful transition of power.
We saw this in Georgia when Stacey Abrams refused to concede to Governor Kemp. I mean, he's not the first election official.
But he's the
first
president of the
candidate.
United States, or he
But
was.
Well, he has the right. Every
And he's
candidate,
already challenging the result now, 4 days before we even finished voting.
That's on him. That has nothing to do with what we do at the state election board. And just to be clear, and I want to be very clear, he is not the first candidate that challenged an election, and neither will he be the last. And in America, you have the right to do that.
But he's also the first president who campaigned on the big steal, which the other side called the big lie.
I don't work for the campaign.
I know. But as someone who cares about election
I'm
processes...
just a Republican. I'm a Republican no matter who the candidate is.
Indeed, and you care about the election process going
Absolutely.
smoothly. So the question is, if one side is already crying foul, before there's any evidence to suggest so, does that not worry you?
You know what? I think that there's concern across the board. I'm concerned about Democrats who may not be happy with the results as well. So it does concern me that there's not faith or confidence in our election process.
Do you think that this election here in Georgia will get messy?
I don't think so. At least I hope not. I hope that we're able to handle it with civility.
And once it's over, will you say, what's done is done, these are the numbers, let's stick by them?
Oh, absolutely. But I'm not a part of the certification process. It has nothing to do with the state election board. It's county boards and the Secretary of State. We simply watch the process, not the outcome.
The election, according to the polls, will be very tight indeed, and the stakes really couldn't be more dramatic.
Yeah.
That's quite a dangerous place for America to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more of a reason why we need to hand count ballots that are coming out of those scanners to make sure that we have them. Our ballots is the receipt of the vote that was cast. If we don't have receipts, which we saw in Fulton County, right where we are right now, in the last election in 2020, last presidential, we had 17,000 missing ballot images. That's a problem. We have 3,000 double counted ballots, but you're telling me that nothing needs to change in our process? I think that's different.
Okay. Janelle King, thank you very much
Thank
indeed.
you.
At every Donald Trump rally, the lines start early, the lines are long, and the merchandise is everywhere. Trump is both politician and brand, attracting old and young to his MAGA revolution.
Make America great again.
What do you like about Trump?
He's a nice guy. He's Christian.
What does Trump mean? Everything. And why are you doing this from the UK? Because I'm going to tell you right now, it's bull.
Journalists are not always welcome in a Republican Party Trump has molded over the past decade here in Michigan and beyond.
I think what he's brought is a boldness of which over the years the Republican Party has failed to do, which is to speak out.
Has he made the Republican Party better as well?
He's made I believe, a bigger tent. There's more diverse people coming into the Republican Party.
But Trump's takeover has pushed some Republicans out of that tent.
Fight, fight, fight. I have seen a lot of Republicans go up to Liz Cheney and thank her.
Enter former Congresswoman Liz Cheney, the daughter of ex-Republican Vice President Dick Cheney, campaigning in Michigan for the Democrats.
I tell you, I have never voted for a Democrat. But this year, I am proudly casting my vote for Vice President Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris's team sees an opportunity to appeal to Republicans opposed to Trump. And Cheney isn't alone in her efforts to recruit this potentially crucial group of undecided voters. At a military honors event in Lansing, Michigan's state capital, we meet Robert Schwartz.
I'm just curious how you're thinking about the election.
I'm exhausted.
He's traditionally a Republican voter, but in this election he finds himself coming to community events like this to convince people to vote Democrat.
Hi, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
How do you do? I'm good. What's your name?
My name's Rebecca.
Have you historically voted Republican?
I've historically voted Republican, but not
Up
in the
until-
last 3 presidential elections. And I'll tell you, I wish I could have Liz Cheney on the ballot. I saw her on Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
I love that woman. She has courage.
Moderate Republicans like Rebecca could be what gets Kamala Harris over the line here in Michigan.
And you think they could be decisive? That batch of voters could be decisive?
Oh, absolutely. In 2016, Michigan was decided by 10,000 votes.
The facts are that, Trump still won the primary. You aren't the Republican Party anymore. This is the Republican Party of Trump.
Well, what I would say is there were Republicans that were Republicans before MAGA, right? And those are the people that we're talking to. They've been Republicans for their whole life.
If you want to see the MAGA takeover here in Michigan, look no further than the Trump shop turned Republican Party headquarters in the bellwether of Saginaw.
The #1 selling item are these signs.
Gary wasn't interested in politics until Trump came along. He says the popularity of the shop is proof of how Trump is bringing new voters into the tent, a MAGA army that allowed Gary to take over the local party.
This is a grand old party with a new identity and a new leadership.
Trump vance, the future of America.
Paul's come in to pick up his yard signs. He's a proud disciple of the Trump church.
Bottom line is, it's called MAGA. And there's nothing wrong with being a nationalist, making America great again.
But when Liz Cheney and those people, when those Republicans come out and sort of try and speak to other Republicans, does that cut through or not really?
No, not really.
No.
Not at all. Because I don't know if you guys are familiar with what a rhino is. They're all rhinos. I have no trust whatsoever in them.
But what he calls rhinos, deemed Republicans in name only, argue that outside of this so-called cult, Trump is putting off traditional conservative voters. Biden narrowly won this county in 2020. How are you feeling about things right now?
We believe Trump won in 2020 if it wasn't for some of the illegal activity. So that is our opinion.
That has been looked into, hasn't it, extensively, and found not to be true.
By the same people that may have caused it. So here's the thing. The people that say it's a tight race now are basing that pretty much on polls.
Yep.
The bottom line is we are not filling out those polls. So those polls that say the race is tight are not getting a true reflection of the voters.
That's a scary one.
I like it.
At the Halloween market down the road, many voters feel like they're caught in the middle of all these political games and simply want the scary divisiveness to come to an end.
People are so very definitely on one side or the other, and it's creating a lot of split in our country.
It makes me sad. Makes me worried for America. I love being an American. It's one of the greatest countries in the world, but right now, we could really make a turn and wipe ourselves off the map.
No way, that's too scary.
Halloween was a last chance for Americans to savour a day of family fun, ahead of polling day next week, when quite a few things might go bump in the night.
Now, I last spoke to Eddie GLA Jr., Professor of African American Studies at Princeton University 4 years ago, just before the previous election. He said then that he was so worried about the outcome, he was thinking, for the first time in his life, of buying a gun. Well, earlier today, I asked him if he did buy that gun and how he was now feeling 4 years on.
I did buy that gun. I've been terribly anxious ever since I purchased it, trying to give it away. But I'm even more anxious now. The state of American politics, the closeness of the election, I have no idea where we're going to end up.
How do you think you got this divided? How did it get so bad?
It's a result of the compromises that were evident from the founding. The moment in which we reconciled democratic principles with slavery. It's what caused the Civil War. It is at the heart of the collapse of Reconstruction. It is at the heart of the mid-20th century, where we finally, in so many ways, tried to become a multiracial democracy. You see, we've only been a multiracial democracy in the United States since 1965. And so, in some ways, this is that kind of genetic preoccupation, that contradiction that has shadowed democratic principles from the beginning in the U.S. And so, it's not how do we get here, it's how do we keep getting here? Why do we keep returning to this? Because we haven't tapped the root of our problems, it seems to me.
And of course, you know, the reason why you get there is because politicians use injudicious language at a very febrile time. So just the latest example, President Biden earlier this week talking about Trump supporters being garbage, and of course there's debate about whether he called one supporter that or many supporters that. Then you had Donald Trump just a few hours ago saying that Liz Cheney should be in the crosshairs to feel what that's like. I mean, this is not the kind of language that calms the mood, is it?
Not at all. It actually reveals the stakes. I mean, there's a sense in which, Republicans will gin up their manufactured outrage over, President Biden's language when they've been engaged in horrific political rhetoric. And then they clutch their pearls when someone actually responds with outrage. They've always felt that they've been looked down upon. And this is just the latest example, according to them. But again, it's a kind of rhetorical handcuff that keeps us locked onto their terrain in some ways.
And do you think that there's manufactured outrage on both sides?
Not really. I think the danger that this autocratic, fascistic turn of the Republican Party, I think the danger is real. And for me, you can imagine immigrants. My wife is an immigrant from Jamaica. You can imagine Latino immigrants. The deep sense of worry and concern, the cry that there's going to be mass deportations, the reality of ugliness, the violence that comes in tow, the history of the country.
Personally, I'm worried by what I keep hearing on the campaign trail, which is that the nation is divided, it's 50-50, there's a coin toss here for the result, possibly. But also both sides believe that if the other side prevails, it's the end of their version of the republic, it's the end of their world. And when that decision rests on a slither of, 50, 60,000 votes in a nation of 45 million people, that's potentially really dangerous, isn't it?
There's a question around the legitimacy of the results. There's a deep-seated distrust of the electoral process, in part produced by Donald Trump and others. I think at the end of the day, and this is what I guess is the source of my anxiety, you know who's going to determine the outcome of this election? White women. We have to see whether or not Dobbs actually matters. And historically, you even think about white women's votes in 2016. The majority of them voted for Donald Trump instead of Hillary Clinton. And so the question is, fundamentally, will white women choose the Republic, or will they double down on the ugly politics of Donald Trump? We'll see.
Donald Trump has already rolled the pitch for a disputed result. He's already prepared his followers, his supporters, and he's got lawyers doing the same thing for a result, should he lose, that will be challenged in the courts and possibly elsewhere. Again, that's alarming, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, he's fighting for his life, literally. He knows that if he loses, he probably will end up in jail, serving prison time. And so this is existential for him. And for many people, they don't believe the electoral process matters unless they win. It gives you a sense of how divested they've become in the democratic process. The only way the democratic process works on Donald Trump's view is that he's victorious. And if that's the case, then we know something is broken. Something is deeply broken.
To get back to your anxiety, not necessarily your gun, I hope, but there are so many people who talk about civil war in this country. And again, I think, it's astonishing that debate should be taking place. Is there a danger of this society actually falling apart in a violent way?
My wife used to sit on the couch as she watched television with the front door open, looking out at the leaves in this fall season. But she's afraid to do it now because a man just randomly showed up at the house twice. My office you can't access my office on Princeton's campus unless I let you in because of the threat of violence. And so it's real. It's real. And it has happened before. January 6th, and before January 6th, it happened in Michigan. It happened in Maricopa County. It's not like it hasn't happened already. And Donald Trump is turning the heat up to its highest level. So we all must be prepared, and we all must be deeply concerned.
Eddie GLA, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, as always.
Something spooky happens to the front lawns of America at this time of year, and it's not just Halloween. We went to Adair Avenue in Atlanta's Virginia Highland to ask the only question that matters. Trick or treat, Harris or Trump?
Oh, Harris.
Harris. Can I ask you? Harris or Trump?
Harris.
And why are you scared of Trump?
We didn't say we're scared, it's just Halloween.
Okay.
He's scared of us, look at us.
What are you scared of in these elections?
The divide.
Are you afraid it might get nasty?
It's already nasty.
I mean, nastier.
Oh, it could, if it's drawn out.
Uh-huh. That really suits you, by the way.
Thank you.
Trick or treat, Harris or Trump?
Ooh, Trump.
Trump. Trick or treat, Harris or Trump?
I agree with him.
Are you scared of Harris?
Scared of some things, some of her policies.
Trick or treat, Trump or Harris?
Harris.
You're surprised me even asking that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In the spirit of Halloween, are you scared of Trump?
I'm not scared of Trump. I'm scared of what Trump can do. But he's nothing to be afraid of. Yeah.
If Trump were to win, what would that mean for you?
It means perhaps rights being taken back or reversed.
Are you scared of what might happen?
I'm scared of the people he's radicalized
Yeah.
and made comfortable.
It's not trick or treat, it's Trump or Harris.
What do you think?
Harris. But we shouldn't talk about it.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. But you can't vote and your mum can. So what does mum think?
Yeah, say no comment.
No comment. Oh, okay. All right. It's not trick or treat, it's Trump or Harris.
Oh, here we go. Batman doesn't play sides.
We're not talking politics today.
Why is that?
Spooky.
Trump.
Why?
Because the other side is insane. That's
Insane.
it. Supporting illegal immigration is insane. All right, then they're for censorship. They hate freedom of speech. Economically, also not good.
Trump is divisive. We like equality, so
you and him.
Me and Betty.
Trump or Harris?
Harris, all the way.
All the way?
You're in the flaming liberal neighborhood.
Well, you say that, but I have come across 4 Trump voters in the
I'm
last half
sorry.
an hour.
Well, it's Halloween. Maybe they're doing a trick.
Trump or Harris?
Trump.
Trump. Say that again.
Harris.
Harris?
Trump.
Are you an item? Are you a couple?
We're dating.
You're
here.
dating. Okay. How long is this relationship going to last?
Who knows?
It's not that big a deal. I think that's the beauty of American politics.
What do you like about Trump?
I don't like how he's going to change things. I think we're ready for a change.
What do you like about Harris?
I don't want any more old guys.
Who are you afraid of?
Her, after this conversation.
No matter what happens in the elections, one half of Adair Avenue and of America will stay terrified.